Well, what's going on, everybody? We are back with you for a Tuesday night episode this week with everything going on in the Egg Bowl being on a Thursday. I've got family stuff tomorrow for Thanksgiving. Nick's got family stuff coming up. So we just went ahead and decided to go ahead and knock the show out tonight. And what we thought was going to be our Egg Bowl preview show, which we are going to preview the Egg Bowl a little bit. But Nick, it goes without saying that the show has changed a little bit over
a
the
little
last
bit.
couple nights. Now, as we said last time, we are not about to start speculating on what we think Lane Kiffin is or is not going to do. We don't know officially what he's going to do one way or another, but we're not just going to skirt around it and not talk about it. You just can't. It is the biggest story in college football right now, quite frankly.
Yeah.
So starting from the beginning, Nick, yesterday afternoon, Lane Kiffin had his weekly Monday press conference that got pushed back several hours due to what I heard was because they were going to practice under the lights last night. I don't know if that was true. Whatever the case may be, class schedules being changed for Thanksgiving week. They pushed it back till about 4:15, 4:30 yesterday. And per the usual, Lane did not address much in the press conference. He kind of gave a couple of his standard answers. We're happy here. I could get up here and give you the pine box speech, yada, 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 all that stuff. Nothing really was said to any great shape or form. Well, a couple hours later, I'm just sitting in my living room doing some prep for the show tonight and watching a little TV. And all of a sudden,
boom,
Twitter's blowing up. John Sokoloff, who you and I both know, I have covered events with him. I assume you've probably covered events with him. Nice guy, works for TV down near Columbus and Starkville. He tweets out that Lane Kiffin is, according to sources, leaving Ole Miss on Friday and he's going to Auburn. So essentially, the Egg Bowl is his last game he's going to coach for Ole Miss, is what the tweet said. Well, this blows up. I mean, I think it took him less than 5 minutes to have at least 13,000 likes.
Oh, yeah.
Thousands upon thousands of retweets, comments, you name it. The tweet blows up. Well, this sits out here for about an hour. Lane Kiffin retweets another John Sokoloff tweet from the press conference earlier in the day talking about the Egg Bowl. And then there's confusion reigning supreme because, wait, does he not know what's going on about the other? Well, then he quote tweets John Sokoloff's story tweet and says, "That's news to me, John. You need to check out your sources," or whatever. Well, minds are blowing everywhere at what is happening, what is going on. Nobody knows. After this happens, Lane goes on a tweeting tirade like I haven't seen in a while, even from him, making fun of John, poking a little fun, sending out the fake news bulletin that John's leaving for WLOX and all that stuff, just starting this firestorm. He ends the night with a tweet of an Ole Miss staffer who just got engaged. Just unbelievable. Nobody knows what's happening. Obviously, the message boards are freaking out. Nobody knows what's going on. Media and staff, we're all scrambling, trying to figure out what is going on, what's happening, what do we really know about what's going on. John then tweets out a story that says Lane to Auburn, but Ole Miss denies the rumors because the Ole Miss athletic department has denied it. And it's been a chaotic,
absolutely,
just an above chaotic last 2 days.
Yeah.
Today, of course, more and more reports are surfacing that it seems like it's a done deal. Lane to Auburn, it's all over but the crying. The contract's been laid out. Some people I've read from several Ole Miss people that the contract at Auburn was presented to their president and it's been approved, and now it's just a matter of does Lane sign it. Then you have other people who don't know for sure. Earlier today, there was a players-only meeting, which is what they typically do during the week. But Lane joined the meeting this time, went in there, and my understanding is, and based on everything that I have been told and read from all the people who were in the know, he basically said the story from John Sokoloff was not true. The tweet wasn't true. I haven't signed any agreements. That's it. He did not say, "I'm not leaving Ole Miss."
Right.
There is a picture circulating supposedly from Jonathan Hess where he said, "Coach said he's staying." That is not what Lane Kiffin actually said. From all the reports we've gotten, multiple people reporting this. He did not actually say, "I'm not leaving Ole Miss." Again, this is where we're at.
Yeah.
So what happens with Lane at this point? Still, technically, only Lane knows.
Right.
It's getting harder to believe that he's not leaving, if I'm
Yeah.
honest, just
Yeah.
because of how
You're
things
right.
are going. Like, I'm not
Mhm.
trying to speculate here. I'm just saying if you just look at the tea leaves, so to speak, it's getting harder to believe that
Right.
he's going to stay, because if he was going to stay, why wouldn't you just say, I'm staying? Why
Yeah,
wouldn't
that's
you
my
chase
thing.
the
Yeah.
rumors? Why wouldn't you tell your team today, I'm not going anywhere? We got the Egg Bowl coming up. I'm here for you. Why wouldn't you?
Right.
And again, the other side of that coin, as we know, Nick, is Lane never does that. He never
Yeah.
does that. He doesn't talk.
Yeah.
He doesn't squash anything. So where we're at right now is the Egg Bowl happens Thursday. Players may or may not know what Lane's going to do. I don't
Right.
know. I haven't spoken to any players personally. Yesterday in the press conference, Jonathan Mingo said that they have not discussed the situation with Lane Kiffin. He
Right.
hasn't discussed it with them. Lane will tell you that they don't talk about it. They know not to ask about it. This is pro mindset, yada, yada, yada. So at this point, you have two factions of the Ole Miss fan
Yeah.
base, is what we've created here, Nick. We
Yeah.
have the one side that is crucifying Lane Kiffin and is done with him. They're done
Right.
with him. You know what? Screw him. I don't care. I don't want him to stay anymore, period. I don't care what happens.
Right.
That's one side of the fan base.
Yeah.
Then you have the other side of the fan base who's saying, we don't know what's going to happen yet. You guys need to calm down. He might stay. This is all part of the business. And, he wins football games.
Right.
Here's what I'm going to say about it, Nick, and then I would love to get your thoughts and whether or not you agree or disagree with what I'm saying here. This only ends one of two ways, because Lane getting fired is not an option. They're not going to fire him, because then they got to pay his buyout and pay the next coach. Ole Miss is working to get the money to pay a good contract to whoever their head coach is going to be. They're not about to fire Kiffin and then pay two different contracts, essentially.
Yeah.
This ends with A, Auburn goes to Auburn, or B, he stays at Ole Miss. One of those two is the only option that is going to happen. If Lane Kiffin stays at Ole Miss, Nick, after all of this, you absolutely have to start by apologizing to your team, in my opinion.
Yes.
You have to say, I am sorry for letting this play out the way I did. We got embarrassed in Fayetteville. We are not focused for the Egg Bowl right now. It is a firestorm on all forms of media right now, and I should have squashed it with you guys sooner. You have to. Now, I'm not going to sit here and say that us as fans are entitled to an explanation or an apology, because we're really not. But if you want to recover the fan base that you've lost and that you've alienated, you're going to have to apologize to them too. Because you can't just let this happen and then turn around and just, I was never going to Auburn, and leave it at that. You can't do that.
Yeah.
It is so out of hand at this point on both sides of the coin that we're just in such a crazy position right now that we don't know. I mean, nobody can really figure it out.
Yeah.
But then the other side of that coin is, last night he clowned on John Sokoloff. Now I get Lane Kiffin's personality on Twitter. It's been like this for a long time. And John's a pretty fun-loving guy, and maybe he doesn't care. Maybe he thought it was funny and all this stuff, and it's great. And I know John is not going to just frivolously tweet something out either that he just made up. He's not going to do that because he knows his credibility would be shot if he just made something up like that. So I do believe John got that from somewhere. That doesn't mean his source was right.
Yeah,
but that happens sometimes in this business. It just happens in this business sometimes. You break enough stories, you're going to be wrong sometimes. It just happens.
Right.
So I'm not going to crucify John for that. I'm not going to do it. But if you are Lane Kiffin and you clown on him last night, you come out and you say, that's news to me, you nice sources, then you send out the fake news bulletin being goofy. Then you retweet another Ole Miss kind of meme account that has the old-fashioned meme of the guy in front of the gravestone throwing up the peace sign with the gravestone behind him that says John Sokoloff across his chest, and on the gravestone it says John Sokoloff's career. And you tweet that out with a smirky emoji or whatever.
Yeah.
You do all that. And then you just go on this and then you go into a players meeting today and say, this is not true. I haven't done anything. And then you turn around and leave.
Yeah.
you best believe that you are going to be the most hated villain. Tommy Tuberville, you're going to be a long distance second, buddy. Nobody be talking about you anymore. Hey, the Pine Box, man, people are going to love you, Tommy, because Lane Kiffin is going to surpass you so far as the most hated villain in Ole Miss history if this happens.
Right.
Because if you turn around and leave after all that, you're gonna just look like a jerk.
Yeah, that's putting it nicely.
Yeah. So I don't know. Agree or disagree with the apology thing, or how he? What do you think? I mean, your thoughts on this, because it's just been a crazy 24 hours.
Yeah, it's like you said, no one really knows, and I'm kind of torn down the middle. At come whatever it's going to be, Friday, Sunday, whenever whatever happens, he signs a contract and stays at Ole Miss, or signs a contract at Auburn. It's like you said, there's two sides to the coin. You're either going to be pissed off or you're going to be really happy.
Yeah.
And there's probably no really in between. And, I think as far as the apology goes, I think you would definitely owe an apology to your players.
Oh,
because, you're putting them through a lot right now, and on a short week at that, and, as far as him going into the meeting today, I think, I think the only thing, I'm not going to say it made matters worse, in my opinion.
Yeah.
But I'm not going to say it helped.
Yeah.
Because I think the only thing that probably could have helped was for him to flat out say 3 words: I'm not leaving.
Yeah.
And other than that, whether he's staying, leaving, I don't think anyone really knows, because, after John tweeted that last night, I was, I wasn't sure, but, I was, like you said earlier, it's getting harder to believe that he's staying.
Yeah. It's just factual. It's just getting hard to believe.
Yeah. And with all the stuff that's coming out, and with some of the, credible people that are coming out and saying what they're saying, it's hard to believe. But, with him doing what he did on Twitter last night, it's hard to see him leaving, I guess. Yeah. But, and then at the same time,
it would be a really bad look. It's going to be a bad look.
Oh, it's going to be an awful look. And like you said, he's, it's going to be like, it probably even worse when Nick Saban left LSU back in, what was that, 2002, 2003?
Yeah, when he said, I will not be the next coach at Alabama, and then boom, very similar to the Tommy Tuberville Pine Box speech,
Right, yeah. So, it's just really, it's weird. No one really knows. I think there's probably only really one person that knows, and that's Lane, what he's doing. And to his defense, he might not even know what he's doing yet. Whether
he very well might not, for real.
Yeah,
we don't know.
Yeah, and it's just tough. And you read the stuff on Twitter, as you and I just every day, civilians. But these players, they're active on social media.
Oh,
they're 18, 20, 21-year-olds. They live on their phone. Granted, they're student athletes, so they don't have the time like everyone else has, other college kids being on their phones, but still, they're seeing all of it. Even if they're trying not to see it, they're seeing it. And I imagine it has to be very hard on them, because, so I guess one thing I was thinking about the other day, or not the other day, today, I guess we're really going to find out, I guess better late than never, what our locker room's like.
Yeah.
Because I think at this point, whether or not you are, as a player, mad at Lane Kiffin, or just like we all are, confused, not knowing what's going on, and he hasn't really addressed it with you. I guess you could say he tried today, but
he didn't. That's the thing.
So it's just, we're going to have to find out, what players and how much they all care for each other. It's been a long season, and for it to be coming down the way it is, for Egg Bowl, you got your coach hat 1 foot out the door, essentially.
Yeah. Maybe that's the thing. It's been well documented today that Jackson Dart's dad was liking a bunch of tweets about, he shouldn't be coaching on Thursday. So just stuff like that gets in people's heads. You just don't know. That's the thing. You don't know about the locker room. It's going to be up to those guys. Are you gonna play for yourself? is a distraction going to be too much?
Right.
It is what it is
Yeah.
at this point. Like we have several comments on the live stream right now. You can join in Facebook, YouTube, Twitter. You can join in. Jenna says, pretty over this toxic drama infested relationship. That's the one side of the fan equation.
Right.
Then you have John, who says, why would he build the NIL fund that he have to compete against? That's the other side. He's been building up the NIL. Why would you want to do that and then go to a team you're going to compete against that NIL with? So
right. That's a prime example right there. Yeah.
To make a long story short, because we're not going to spend the whole show on Lane Kiffin.
Right. Mm-hmm.
Nobody knows if he's leaving or not for sure.
Right.
Mitchell asks, he's gone, isn't he? We don't know. We really don't. We're not lying to you when we say we don't. We don't. Nobody has told us. Lane hasn't told us. It's all speculation still at this point. Yes, some sources indicate strongly that it's a done deal and he's leaving. Some aren't so sure yet. That's the players are the only people I'm really concerned about, honestly, they need to know. I hope they know before Thursday, one way or another. I hope they really know. But if today is any indication,
we're not
going to know until afterwards.
Like I said earlier, they're 18 to 21-year-old, they're kids. Let's be frank. They're young adults, and most of them, and Lane Kiffin talks a lot about the pro mindset, which I like. You got to have a pro mindset. But these kids are not professionals.
Yeah.
They're still college students. They're still figuring out life just like any other college kid is. And, to have, like I said, that pro mindset is good. But at a certain point, there's that fine line where, like I said, these are still 18 to 21-year-old kids that you're dealing with.
It's that fine line of these are kids that signed up to play for you. They also know it's a business with NIL. But you have to understand they're 18 to 21. They don't necessarily have that mindset that a 47-year-old coach has.
Right. Or a 32-year-old veteran NFL quarterback, whoever,
Yeah.
So,
All that aside, we're going to update you. It's going to, one way or another, we're going to find out when we find out.
When we find out, y'all will know.
Everyone's going to know when we know. And that's just how, as far as we know, negotiations are still ongoing. We know he's interviewed several times. That's been well publicized.
Right.
Hugh Freeze has interviewed. I mean, this is it is what it is. He is supposedly their number one candidate over there. The last thing I'm going to say is this: don't build your life around a head coach. Don't let your life be defined. I'm not going to lose any sleep over Lane Kiffin if he leaves.
Me neither.
I'm not.
Yeah, no.
My life isn't going to go down the tank. It's college football. My life goes on. And if he leaves, he leaves. Ole Miss is going to be fine in the long run, and that's just the truth. It sucks the way it's been handled to an extent, but you can't change that. We can't control that, and that's just how it is. The one thing I would say is I hope that our fans don't act like Tennessee fans come Egg Bowl day and don't start throwing stuff on the field or anything like that, because we don't need a toxic environment for recruits to see.
There is still a game to play to win.
There is still a game to play.
Big game.
Speaking of that game, that leads us into the big game. The Egg Bowl obviously is coming up on Thursday. Ole Miss is looking to win their third in a row over the Fighting Mike Leach Pirates, and hopefully we'll have a third straight Egg Bowl trophy in the case after Thursday. But it's going to come down to the players. Now, these teams, obviously, Ole Miss is on a bit of a skid. They got handily beat by Arkansas, and it wasn't very close. It was actually a pretty embarrassing first three quarters. And quite frankly, the only reason they scored and made it close late is because Arkansas just wasn't really trying that hard anymore. Let's just be real. It was a full-on domination by Arkansas. It's hard to win in Fayetteville. We haven't done it since 2008.
Right.
And that streak continues. It certainly sucked. But you can't change it. KJ Jefferson came back. He looked fantastic. He looked completely healthy. That's for sure. Ole Miss just didn't do what needed to be done to stop them. Now, again, officiating, it wasn't great.
Yeah.
You had a couple of touchdowns taken off the board thanks to some very questionable penalties.
Right.
But, you can't blame the whole game on that. You just have to play better.
So coming
into this game, Ole Miss is trying to avoid doing what would be catastrophic if you look at it from just a fan perspective of a season that started 8-1 and you're now 8-3. And looking at a loss would put you 8-4, and you would go from second in the SEC West to tied for fourth or fifth, with Mississippi State and all that, with only Texas A&M and Auburn being below you. So you don't want to have that happen if you're Ole
Right.
Miss. Will Rogers obviously he throws for a lot of yards. Now you can argue that he doesn't throw a lot of deep balls, but he still throws for a lot of yards. I mean, Mississippi State has over 3,500 passing yards on the season. Ole Miss doesn't quite have 2,500. They're a yard shy of 2,500. So definitely the air raid is what Mike Leach is kind of known for. That's what they're going to try to do, is use Will Rogers effectively and to the best of their ability.
Right.
Nick, I kind of sound like a broken record, and I'm really kind of tired of saying it, because you can say you just got to stop the one guy. For Ole Miss, that's not the key to the game this week.
Nope.
The key to the game for Ole Miss this week is you've got to just be focused. You've somehow got to tune out the noise, and it's going to be hard to do.
Oh, absolutely.
You've somehow got to, as players, decide this is about us, and we're going to play for us.
Yeah.
Because if you don't do that, Mississippi State could easily win this game.
Yeah, and I think, with you saying that, and it really just now thinking about that, I think it helps a lot playing at home, not having to be in Starkville. And, it's going to be senior night. So, that'll be some motivation, if you maybe can't find anything to play for, play for the seniors, and I think, you can talk about, oh, stop this guy, stop that guy, but you got to be worried about being focused, and that's it. Because if you're focused and play the way you're capable of, probably beat this team by at least 3 scores. But with everything that's going on, and just it being a lot, and losing 2 in a row, so it's definitely not going to be an easy one. And like you said, Will Rogers, he is what he is. Whether or not you want to call him a system quarterback, a good quarterback, it is what it is.
Yeah.
He does what Mike Leach asked him to do very, very well.
Yeah.
And I was looking today, as any air raid offense barely runs the ball. Quinshon Judkins has 3 times as many yards as their leading rusher.
Yeah.
Who has like 400, not even 500 yards this season.
Yeah.
And Quinshon Judkins, I think, is almost at, what is it, just over 1,300 yards.
Judkins, as we speak, is
1,380 something.
Yeah, 1,385, and Jaquavius Marks is at 461.
Yeah. So, and I mean that is what it is. And I looked at the forecast today. It's not going to be quite as cold as it was in Fayetteville, but there's a good chance of rain. Yeah. And so, if you look at the the play styles of the two teams, that kind of bodes well for Ole Miss being able to run the ball. But then on the flip side, Mississippi State's defense is not a joke. They've got a good defense. They held Alabama like 30 rushing yards, and they've got a defensive back, Emmanuel Forbes, who has, what is it? Is it 6 interceptions? 3 of them back for touchdowns this year. So, I mean, they are like we've said, the last 7 weeks or so. If you let them beat you, they're going to, versus where we had those early games, the teams we were playing, they weren't going to beat you if you let them, So it's going to be an interesting one for sure.
Yeah. I mean, again, if you look at it on paper, you look at the weather, the advantage goes to Ole Miss.
Right.
Team-wise. But the advantage technically went to Ole Miss last week too. And we saw what happened there. Again, it just, we can talk about the numbers all we want. We can talk about Rodgers. We can talk about Dart. We can talk about Judkins. Judkins is going to play his heart out. There's no doubt about that. What the defense does will be key. You can't let Will Rogers. You cannot play a soft zone defense on this team. No. You can't, because that's what Will Rogers does. He throws dink and dunk passes. He's a zone quarterback who's going to find those holes in the zone all night long. That's how he throws for so many yards. So you can't play zone defense against this team. You're going to have to play man. You're going to have to play tight. You can't let him get behind you. You got to make Will Rogers beat you deep, because he doesn't go deep very much. He would rather throw short to medium passes. So defense needs to be ready for that. The run game isn't their strong point, but we've seen Ole Miss play teams where that was the case before, and they you just got to plug those holes. But the biggest thing for Ole Miss you got to do is you got to get in the red zone, and you got to score in the red zone. You cannot miss opportunities in the red zone, and you definitely can't have turnovers. You just can't.
That's what outside of the red zone, obviously, is the turnovers killed us. But
Yeah.
I've never seen, not that I can recall, an offense that's goes for 700 yards and has two 200-yard rushers and only scores 27 points. And that comes in the last, 15, 20 minutes of the game.
Yeah.
So, and, and not to circle back to Arkansas, but I had not watched much of that Sanders, Rocket Sanders. He's a real deal.
Yeah. They have two Sanders on their team, and both of them are good. Raheem Sanders out of the backfield, Rocket Sanders in the wide receiver spot.
Yeah.
Both of them will kill you.
Yeah, Raheem and those guys are, and of course KJ is what KJ is, big, strong, and we just couldn't tackle either of those guys. So, I'm not aware that Mississippi State really has that big guy that's hard to tackle, but just regardless, it all comes down to the focus. Whether it's focus on making a tackle, focus on whatever it is. So it's just going to take that little extra focus of finishing plays. Whatever it may be, getting a call, getting a signal, making the right decision in the pocket, all that stuff.
Yeah. A couple questions on the line real quick on our text line here. Somebody asked if we could fire Kiffin. No, they're not going to. That's a buyout.
Yeah, they're not going to fire him. Yeah.
Real quick, guys, I talk about him every week, and this is our last regular season game for you guys to get hooked up with deadsoxy.com. 25% off site-wide all the time when you use the code RebelWalk. You need to go and get your socks because it ain't getting any warmer, and you want to have some warm, comfortable socks to wear. Deadsoxy.com, and they've got officially licensed gear coming out, and some of it's already out, if I'm not mistaken. You guys need to check it out. They have officially licensed gear with Ole Miss now, so keep an eye out for all the updates on that with Dead Soxy. HottyToddyTents.com, they've been great all season long. You're probably not going to have much success getting a tent now. I'm just going to be honest with you because it's the Egg Bowl. They probably already sold out, but hey, it can't hurt to check. And if you happen to, if there's any availability yet left, jump on it because these guys are fantastic and it's going to be cold, might be a little wet. You're not going to want to do all that on your own. Let these guys handle it for you. They'll set it up. They'll tear it down through the whole 9 yards. HottyToddyTents.com. One thing I did forget to mention earlier that I do want to say real quick is that I was listening to Reb Talk before we came on the show, and David Kellum, surprisingly enough, asked Lane about all the stuff going on, and it was the typical. He basically said, well, you can pretty much make up anything you want now, and people click on it, so I guess we made that guy famous last night. And David said, well, you never retweet me, and Lane said, well, hey, let's just make up a story about you going to Mississippi State to do their radio. So the humor's still there. The jokes are still there. I love David Kellum. If anybody can handle all this noise with professionalism, it's David Kellum. He's fantastic. I love that guy. He is one of the best things that Ole Miss has going for him. Consummate professional, super nice guy, very humble, and just one of the best in the business when it comes to play-by-play. I love listening to him. Nick, it's hard right now. I've honestly been contemplating not even doing a prediction for this game just because of the situation but we got to, man. We've done it all. We've done it all season. We might as well throw a prediction out there. So, the numbers for this game, they're pretty even. Ole Miss scores 35 a game. Mississippi State scores 33 a game. They both allow about the same, 24 points a game. I mean, again, the rushing yards are clearly in Ole Miss's favor. The passing yards are clearly in Mississippi State's favor. So if you're looking at those two numbers, obviously the style of the two offenses is completely different.
Right.
Mississippi State would certainly have the edge in pass defense with Forbes, who is one of the Connolly Trophy finalists. He is the finalist from Mississippi State. Obviously, Quinshon is the finalist from Ole Miss, and Quinshon was actually named the Doak Walker Award finalist today as well. So he is racking up the at least nominations for awards so far. If you look at you were talking about leading rushers, obviously that goes hugely in Ole Miss's favor with Quinshon. If you look at Mississippi State's receiving, their leading receiver actually is Thomas, who has 599 yards. So actually you could say that Ole Miss has the advantage there too, because Mingo and Heath have 768 and 754. But the difference is those are a lot more deep balls from darts on those plays, a lot more big gappers, big gainers.
Plays,
whereas Will Rogers will find his receivers a lot more per game.
Right.
And he spreads the wealth a lot more. You look at Thomas has 599. Ducking has 450. Harvey has 429. Griffin has 410. Marks 267. Williams 263. Wally 262. The list goes on. They spread the wealth around.
They spread it around a lot.
And obviously Ducking has the celebration that he's known for, where he kind of waddles like a duck when he catches a touchdown pass, playing on his name there. So look for that if he scores a touchdown. But again, on paper, you would think with the weather, this game would go Ole Miss's way. But we've talked about it. The key to this game is going to be, are they focused? What do they know? What do they not know? Do they believe Lane is staying? Do they not believe he's staying? Because that's going to play a role in this game. Let's just be honest. Because if they don't believe he's staying, then they're going to have to make the choice on, do they want to win for themselves, or would they rather prove a point? And I don't want to sound conspiracy theorist. I don't want to say these players are going to lay down on purpose, because I don't believe they will. But you can put it out there that they're not going to be focused and not play their hardest game because of what's going on around.
Right.
I would like to think that the players want to win this game. They've talked about how important that it is. Mingo has talked about it. JJ Pegues even talked about it. And this is his first year at Ole Miss.
Right.
And he understands the importance of this rivalry. Malik Heath definitely understands this rivalry.
Oh, yeah.
Transferring to Mississippi State. I would love to have been able to talk to Malik and just get his thoughts on it. I haven't been able to. Obviously, you guys know about my injury. I haven't been able to go to any press conferences in person or anything like that. So I've just been kind of covering him remotely. So I haven't been able to talk to Malik personally. I wish I could have. That would have been fun to get his thoughts on this game from the other side of the coin this year. I don't know, man. Malik might want to put on a show out here. He might want to, look at, you guys see me on the other side of the field, So we'll see what happens. But man, I still haven't really come up with what I'm going to say for my score prediction.
Me either.
It's really tough.
Right.
I'll have to do, and haven't done this all year, so you guys can't say I have. I'm going to have to do a caveat. I'm going to have to do a double prediction with a caveat, basically, which is, if Ole Miss is focused, if they come out and they play to their potential, they win this game. I don't have any doubt about it. I think they are going to be angry. And they get focused. They come out, they play angry, they play hard, they use the ground game effectively, and they take it to Mississippi State on the ground in the weather and use it to their advantage. And I think Ole Miss would win this game. I'd say 35-31. So I'm going to say that. But the caveat, if they're not focused, if they come out kind of lackluster like they did against Arkansas, then I would think State would probably win, and State might put up a lot of points early if they're not focused like they were on Saturday. I certainly hope that's not the case. But if they're not focused, I say State probably gets a 42-28 win. So as long as they're focused, as long as they're playing hard and they're in the game, 35-31 Ole Miss wins. Other side of the coin, if they're not, 42-28 they win.
Right.
I know that's kind of a hedge the bets. I haven't done that all year, though, and that's just kind of where we're at.
Right. So I'm just going to go with one. I'm going to say, Ole Miss comes out, is focused. It's a big game. It's Egg Bowl. If it wasn't any other game, maybe, and like, senior night, like I mentioned, there's it's, and you hear players say, it's just another game, but it's really not. You got senior night. It's the Egg Bowl, in-state rival. You got just all the stuff, with all the stuff going on, I think that's one thing that might help this team, stay together. So I'm going to go 38-35 Ole Miss wins and a thriller.
This game always is.
Last drive, Ole Miss goes down and kicks that field goal and wins it.
Well, I like that. It's obviously the Egg Bowl is always going to be a thriller. The history of this series, obviously, is well in the hands of Ole Miss. They lead at 64-46 overall with 6 ties in there. I don't count ties. So 64-46.
You can't forget about those vacated wins.
Yeah, so technically they lead at 66-46. I always say that I don't care what the NCAA says. We won those games. So, 66-46, Ole Miss leads the series. They are on a 2-game winning streak that followed a Mississippi State 2-game winning streak. And as a matter of fact, if I'm not mistaken here, and I'm just trying to verify, no, Mississippi State does have the longest win streak in the history of the series, but that was way back in the late 1910s into early 1920s. So we're not really worried about that.
Yeah.
Ole Miss has the most recent lengthy winning streak. They actually won quite a few in a row, and then there were those couple of ties sprinkled in kind of in the 50s, 60s, 70s range there.
Right.
So Ole Miss looking to win their third in a row. That has not happened since 2009 through 2011. Mississippi State went 41-27, 31-23, and 31-3 in those 3 years. We know who the coach was in those 3 years. And things weren't looking too snazzy for Ole Miss back then. So, back in the old Houston Dale Nut days and moving in towards Hugh Freeze. So Hugh Freeze got things turned around temporarily, and then that kind of went to crap for a little while there. But Lane Kiffin so far has turned Ole Miss around and looking for counting a bowl game. If Lane would still be here, of course, and coach the bowl game, he could get potentially back-to-back 10-win seasons counting the bowl game as long as they win the Egg Bowl. So a lot has changed for Ole Miss football over the last couple of years. But you want to end this little streak that's going on. You want to get off the schneid. You want to put to silence all this mess that's going on. And kind of take the sting out of back-to-back losses to Alabama and Arkansas. The players have a real chance to prove something here. They really do. And the players deserve every bit of support we can give them. They really do.
Absolutely. Yeah.
This is all about them. They are the heart and soul.
They're the ones out on the field. Strapping up. They're the ones putting their bodies on the line. And, Lane Kiffin, although he plays a big role, but, he's standing on the sideline with the headset. And, he's not out there making the plays and doing what all those guys do. So, it's definitely it's about them. And it has always been about them. But, when you have a coach like Lane Kiffin, I'm not saying that he tries to make it about him, but, just with his personality and who he is. Yeah. And it's good. It's good for the Ole Miss brand, but it's always been about the players. And, for fans, like you said, I think it's, you can't sit here and say, if Lane Kiffin were to leave, you can't take it out on Ole Miss. There's nothing they could do. It's Lane's decision. And so, like you said, it
support the players. That's all you can do.
You got to support the players. Yeah, absolutely.
And, like you said, doesn't matter who's standing on that sideline. It's all about the players. And, the game itself has been kind of the sideshow this week. It's been the attention has been focused elsewhere. Hopefully these players can come together and really unite and say, you know what, this is a big game. We want to win it. We don't care what's going on. We want to beat the crap out of Mississippi State and send Mike Leach home 0-3 in the Egg Bowl.
Yeah.
So we really appreciate you guys trusting us with your coverage. Evie does a phenomenal job with the Rebel Walk. And you guys know us well enough to know that we are not going to just put out frivolous information for clicks or for views or for anything like that. We're not going to tell you, well, I think Kiffin's leaving or I think Kiffin's staying or any of that. Until we know for sure, we're not going to tell you anything that we just think might happen. Nick and I have explained our views on it tonight and how we think it's going. But again, this is all still, as crazy as it is, it's all still speculation for the time being. And that's just how it is. We really appreciate you guys trusting us to give you the most legitimate information we can give you when we have it. And I do appreciate the professionalism that Evie brings to this company, to this website. And we appreciate you guys trusting us and tuning in for our show. Thank you for all the comments tonight, for all the views. I know it's a crazy thing and all everybody wants to talk about right now is Lane. I don't want to beat the dead horse too much because it's, it is what it is. And you talk about it to the extent that you can, and you don't throw out information that you just don't know. So we will keep you all posted. I know you guys are all locked into all the sites, all the Ole Miss news, all the national stuff. You can pretty much hear what you want to hear right now. That's what we talked about last time. But Ole Miss has a big game at 6:30, right? 6:30 Thursday?
Yeah, pretty sure 6:30,
Thursday night on ESPN, or is it 6? Let me just verify because I got it wrong last week and you corrected me in a hurry. So I want to make sure.
I'm pretty sure it's 6:30 this week.
I know they've, with weather and everything, they love
it. It could be 6. I could be wrong.
To throw kinks and things. It will be 6. So I had it right the first time. It is 6 o'clock. It will be on ESPN. Right now, Ole Miss is a 2-point favorite in that game, according to Vegas, or it could be 2.5, depending on which book you look at.
Yeah, which book,
I would have to imagine that that's probably going to end up sliding closer to a pick 'em by the time the game kicks off, just like it did for Arkansas. on last weekend. We'll see.
Yeah.
But 6 o'clock on ESPN, if you can't be there in person, I do expect it to be a sellout. It's going to be hopefully raucous to throw Mississippi State off, and Ole Miss come out there doing something cool at the field again this week. The grounds crew at Ole Miss is fantastic.
Phenomenal.
They are just the best, and I'm not trying to be a homer here, but I am a little bit. They're the best in college football. The things they can do with that field. We saw the American flag end zones earlier this season. All that stuff we saw. They are just phenomenal. So give it up for the Ole Miss grounds crew because they are fantastic. Again, Nick says 38-35. Ole Miss wins. I'm going 35-31. Ole Miss victory. Slight caveat on that, but I'm hoping that won't come into play. So I'm just going to stick with the 35-31 Ole Miss victory. They're going to end the season 9-3 and determine which bowl game they go to. ESPN's experts so far still have Ole Miss projected to go to the Citrus Bowl against Penn State. Last I checked, which would be a pretty interesting one with James Franklin and the Nittany Lions. That game will be in Orlando on January 2nd.
Somewhere it's warm. That's what we are hoping for.
Yeah, somewhere that's warm. That's right. In the wintertime, Orlando, you can't really beat that. We'll see what happens, though. Obviously, a lot of football still between now and then, or not a lot of football, one game between now and then. But
it seems like a lot on the line.
It seems like a lot. There's just a lot at stake this week. It really is. And it just means more this week. No pun intended, but it just means more at Ole Miss this week for a lot of reasons. So stay tuned to the Rebel Walk for all your news. We will give it to you when we got it. I promise you that. We appreciate you guys. Again, I can't thank you guys enough for being with us all season long. Hopefully next season, our goal is to make these videos even more lively, and we're going to have hopefully some intro videos for you, maybe some segment video. We're going to try to liven things up a little bit. So hopefully we will have a lot more interesting videos for you next time around too. But we appreciate you guys tuning in all regular season. We're not done yet. We're going to have another show or two at least before the season's over. Regardless, whether it be coaching, whether it be bowl game, whatever the case may be, we're going to have some more shows for you. So we're not done yet. But hopefully we'll have some more positive stuff to talk about after Thursday. Until then, happy Thanksgiving, everybody.
Happy Thanksgiving, absolutely.
I almost neglected to say that. What am I doing? Enjoy the time with your family. Be thankful for your family. All right. Remember, family is the most important thing, not who's coaching your football team. Okay. So be thankful for your family. Be thankful for another day. I know I am. I can tell you, I don't take any day for granted anymore. So and be thankful for being alive and getting to spend time with family, watching football and having a good time and traveling or doing whatever it is you may be doing during the holidays. Be safe. Don't drink and drive.
Yeah.
All right. I've always been big on that, but especially now, don't drink and drive, people. Holidays is a bad time for that. It really is.
Yeah.
So just if you're going to drink, that's perfectly fine. Have somebody who's sober drive you home. All right. Or stay wherever you're at. So be careful, be safe, but have a good time. Have a good time at the game for those that are going. Nick, are you going to be at the game or are you going to be with family on Thursday?
I'm going to be here in Biloxi with family. Yeah.
Okay. So you won't be. This will be one. I think the first home game Nick hasn't been at, but
I did not make this Central Arkansas game.
Oh, well, whatever. Either way, enjoy the time with your family, Nick. I know I will be. We will be. I will be trying to keep you guys updated like I always do throughout the game. So don't worry there. But it will be a fun time with family on Thursday. 6 o'clock on ESPN, Ole Miss and Mississippi State in the Egg Bowl. Keep it locked on the Rebel Walk for all the updates. Happy Thanksgiving. Be safe. Have a great evening. And we will talk to you guys next time. Thanks so much for tuning in and joining us in the conversation. Until next time, have a great night, everybody, and hotty toddy.